Scene 15 is Act 4, Scene 1 in the folio version, and often in Shakespeare, Act 4 is the sort of the calm before the storm, and I think that's the case here as well. You get the sense almost of a resolution brewing here, before Act 5 really undermines that with this ending that is only sort of semi-cathartic. O'Toole talks about the way that this play seems to have a really neat resolution coming that then gets, you know, taken apart really right at the end, and I think this scene really sets it up. We get in Act 4, Scene 1 or Scene 15 these older characters starting to relinquish power to the younger good characters. We get the sense that here's the answer, you know, that Edgar and Albany are the answer because they can unite the old and new world. Gloucester says around about line 18, our means secure us and our mere defects prove our commodities. That comes immediately after the line, which is one of the more famous ones in the play, where Gloucester says, I stumbled when I saw. It's that point, you know, but bearing in mind that right at the end of the last scene, Gloucester's now blinded eyes are washed with eggs, and it's that idea that actually Gloucester's rebirth has come from being blind. As soon as he's blinded, he sees through Edmund. He realises that Edmund is the sort of the bad son. Egg is used to you know, to soothe and clean his eyes, which is an image of rebirth. And here, what Gloucester's saying is, when he could see clearly, he actually messed up. Whereas now, his defects is proving his commodities. He's a better person now that he's defected, just like Lear's a better person now that he's mad. Shakespeare's making that point that it's when they're thinking outside of the world that they're in that these characters are able to almost see the bigger truth. And then Edgar, acting as poor Tom, sort of meets up with Gloucester and he's sort of leading him to Dover. Edgar says later about line 36, how should this be? Bad is the trade that must play fool to sorrow, angering itself and others. Again, it's like his tears that will mar his counterfeiting in the last act. What Edgar's saying here is he's having to play, you know, play the fool, play the idiot, stay in disguise, and yet actually behind it is incredibly sad. It's that idea again, it's honest deception. It's not the blind loyalty of Kent or Lear or Gloucester, but it's not this Machiavellian nature of Edmund or Goneril or Regan either. It's somewhere in the middle. Edgar says around about line 51, 52 to Gloucester, bless thy sweet eyes, they bleed. It reminds us of Cordelia's watered eyes. Her eyes are washed with tears that we get earlier on in the play. Just like Cordelia, Gloucester's, you know, thinking outside the box a little bit, and again his eyes are linked to being blessed, to being holy. It's that religious imagery that creeps in. To a Jacobean audience watching this, they're thinking, yeah, Shakespeare's giving us a really Christian message, saying, you know, follow God, that the problems in this play are from this old world that doesn't have that belief, and everything will be sorted if you believe in God. Of course, that's made really problematic at the end, when that doesn't seem to be the moral at all. And then scene 2 of Act 4 or scene 16, if you've got my version, it shows the fractures between Goneril and Albany. So we've had Edgar, you know, coming up as this new man. Now we got Albany doing the same thing. It's foreshadowed when Oswald starts to speak about line 3, Madam within, but never a man so changed. I told him of the army that was landed, he smiled at it. I told him you were coming, his answer was the worse. So we get Oswald the loyal servant, who's doubled, I think, throughout with Kent, the other loyal servant. Of course, Oswald is loyal to the wrong cause here. But he is outraged at the way that Albany has changed. Now, that is very, very much like Kent looking in horror at Goneril and Regan. You know, this old man, this loyal man, who's horrified by the changeability of youth. But of course here, Albany's change is totally positive. He's seen through now, you know, Goneril and Regan, so change isn't always bad. Edgar changes, Albany changes, it's not always a bad thing. Goneril carries on with this sort of echo of Kent, I guess. She says, wear this, around about line 20-21. She basically gives a love token to Edmund to prove her love. Just like with Kent, she's giving these tokens away to sort of prove, you know, her loyalties and in this case her love. Edmund exits and Goneril says, you know, sort of as he goes, my most dear Gloucester, she's calling him Gloucester because obviously the old Gloucester is sort of on his way out now. Now Edmund is seen as the new Earl of Gloucester. To thee a woman's services are due, my foot usurps my body. What she's basically saying there, she's promising a body to him. Okay, she's promising this body to Edmund. To a Jacobean audience, that would be shocking, who are used to seeing women being devoted, to being daughters, to being silent, to being domestic. This is a woman basically saying, you know, have my body and do what you will with it. So a really shocking moment that would take her out of that gender quite a lot. And that's echoed when Albany says, about line 39, tigers, not daughters, what have you performed? Again, they're linked to animals, but Albany's point, then they're tigers and therefore they cannot possibly be daughters. You know, they're going out of that role of the woman. Again, this is problematic at the end because, of course, Cordelia is also killed. The ideal daughter is also silenced and killed. Carol Rutter talks about that. Women can't win in this play, basically. They're either monsters, she says, or they're monstered, which obviously happens to Cordelia right at the end. Albany says right at the end of his little speech, humanity must perforce prey on itself like monsters of the deep. Again, so it's all humanity that's monstrous here. It links back to what Commode says. This is such an unholy time that things seem to be just almost turning in on themselves. I guess you could argue that Rutter's wrong, because to a Jacobean audience watching this, but believing in God and believing in religion, maybe Cordelia is ultimately rescued because she's going up to heaven, you know, and you could almost argue that what Albany's doing here is setting up that difference. Yes, Cordelia does get killed, but she escapes this horrible world and perhaps goes on to a better life. Goneril replies, line 49, brilliantly with milk-livered man. So again, he's linked to milk, he's linked to being womanish, he's linked to femininity. And there's that idea again that what Shakespeare's showing is that the best characters are those who can blend. Albany can blend the loyalty of the males and the bravery of the males with this compassion of the females, something that's more like Cordelia. In the same way that Edgar can blend the loyalty of the old world with the ability to disguise himself, it seems like they're the compromise. They're able to adapt because they're able to take the best of both worlds here. Albany then sort of carries that on, I guess, on line 58, 59. See thyself, devil, proper deformity shows not in the fiend so horrid as in woman. So Albany's accused of being milk-livered, but then also attacks the femininity and the womanhood of Goneril. Again, it ties into Rutter's point, doesn't it, that women can't win. And yet Albany's just been called milk-livered. So perhaps that's the answer to what Rutter says. Perhaps it's yes, women can't win, but neither can the men, neither can the old patriarchs. The only characters who can win are those who are able to unite both male and female roles. That might be an argument that you brought up against Rutter's view. Albany calls Goneril, though changed and self-covered thing, about line 61, 62. Again, disguise is really problematic here. Albany's attacking Goneril for being disguised, and yet disguising Edgar is seen as positive. So there's no simple answers here. The best characters are those who are able to blend both worlds. Albany finishes that speech around line 65. However thou art a fiend, a woman's shape doth shield thee. So again, you know, you're a fiend disguised as this woman. You're a fiend hidden behind this role of a woman. And then right at the end of the scene, the last couple of lines, for around line 94-ish onwards, Albany says, Gloucester, I live to thank thee for the love thou showest the king, and to revenge thy eyes. Come hither, friend, tell me what more thou knowest. Basically, he wants to speak to Gloucester. And he is, you know, taking on the mantle of Gloucester. So remember, Gloucester has been this emasculated man. He's lost his eyes, which is a symbol of castration. Now Albany's saying, right, I'm going to sort this out for you. And we get that sense that Gloucester's seen the error of his ways, and now Albany, who won't make those same mistakes, who doesn't need to be castrated because he's already got the features of a woman, the milk-livered man. He's got that compassion. He is able now to take on the battle and put things right, which I think is a key thing that gets set up. How far things are genuinely put right and how far that's a resolution that never really comes, as O'Toole said, you could debate. Okay, it is not an obvious answer either way here, but I think that's what Act 4 is setting us up towards.